Hey guys, today's Wednesday and you know what that means. It's time for a Walk-In Wednesday. Now, today I have a lot of odds and ends to show you, just some really cool stuff I have sitting around here. And so I'm going to show you some really cool guns that came in this week as a Walk-In Wednesday, and I'm going to start with a Krigoff. Now, I did a whole video on the development of the Krigoff in production from 1935, actually, all the way to 1945. You can check that out by looking under Legacy Collectibles, comma, Krigoff, and you'll find that video. But come take a look over my shoulder and I'll talk a little bit about this gun. Okay, so as I mentioned, I've shown you Krigoffs before, but there's some teaching moments here I think we can all learn from. So first and foremost, check out this finish. You can see on the Krigoff it has a beautiful finish, and this thing is like 99%. Just look at the barrel, the front strap. But what you might want to take note of is look at the side plate is a different color than the rest of the frame. So that gives people pause. Now there's a lot of things that I like about this gun. Notice the white has turned yellow here and here. When that's bright white, like when somebody whitens their teeth, it's often reapplied or sometimes means the gun was messed with or refinished. I like that aged white a lot. I also like the straw that's aged so that you see dark spots and lighter spots where it's been handled. That all tells me this is 100% correct. So what's up with that side plate? Well, if you read the book on Krigoffs, and actually this is a good time to announce that I just finished a book on Mausers, including, well, it's World War II Mausers, including Mausers and Krigoffs. Just finished it. It's going to the editing process and, of course, has to be printed. So it's probably at least a month or two away. I know all of you are going to want to get a copy, but I do talk about the fact in 1940, actually 1938, 1940, the Krigoffs that were made those years, that one of the reasons, way you can tell it's all original, is the side plate is a different color than the rest of the gun. So that's something that you may not know, and that just proves that this is exactly correct. Also, on the commercial, notice there's no date. That makes this a commercial Krigoff. Most went to the Luftwaffe. Commercial Krigoffs, I believe, went to party officials. And they're also known as P codes right there. P, I believe, means private. So this was a private sale, and there's a serial number, and this takes us to 1940 because that proof mark is the Eagle N, which was first used in late 39, early 40. So it has the red grips. It has the Eagle N. That tells me 1940. It has the features of a 1940. I should quickly show you the side plate. You'll see right here, 04. This side plate is numbered to the gun. And right there is a very tiny Krigoff proof on the trigger bar. So we know that this is all correct. Beautiful gun. I already said it's about 99% original finish. See how I just popped that back on there. Very simple. Also, fire blue here, fire blue here. I've talked before about this is polished and this is dull. What I call the ear, this is the outer ear, is polished. The inner ear is dull. And you can see that here as well. Outer ear polished, inner ear is dull. Let's take a look at the magazine. Nickeled magazine, nickel tube, which is correct. But most importantly, there's the matching magazine. So this is a P code, very rare. They only made a few hundred of these. I'd say like 300. So you see the serial number there. And the military ones will have a Krigoff proof here, but the commercial ones do not. So this is all correct. One other thing I want to point out that you'll find with Krigoff finishes, as beautiful as that is, Krigoff did make some bluing mistakes. And I've seen this before. Here's a good example. You see how rich and luster blue that is. I don't know if that's a good term. Rich and lustered is rich and lustered blue. But here, look how dull that is. In fact, there's almost a line right here. And if you're talking about typical wear, you would always grab it like this. So you would expect to see that line here, but how would this be 99% and this be dulled down? And the answer is, and according to the book on Krigoffs, a lot of times the finish was inconsistent where they didn't prepare the metal correctly on the back. So two options for that kind of a pattern. Two options. One, somebody took a solvent and wiped it down, but I would think then they would go all the way up. Or two, they didn't prepare the metal correctly. Overall, this is a 99% all original finish, except for this, which is dulled down quite a bit. So when I write the description, we'd say beautiful finish, like new condition, with some dulling on the back strap. Okay, so here's the next gun I wanted to show you. Again, odds and ends. Maybe you've seen one like this before because I did a video about a year ago. With good guns, what goes around comes around. This one did sell about a year ago, but came back to me and we're going to sell it again. When you look at this monstrosity of a rear sight, you might be tempted to say, what the heck is it? And that would be well deserved. So let me tell you a little bit about this gun. Made in Germany means it was made for export. They only put that on guns that were being made for export. It is in .22 caliber, and the way you can tell that, first of all, the slide is thinner and beveled right here, but also it says caliber .22. If you look at the magazine, this is an original pre-war magazine and is correct for the gun. And over here we see Stoger arms. So there are Lugers. That's, by the way, a retailer in New York. I think they had other stores, but it was a retailer of sporting goods and guns in particular. We do see Lugers with Stoger arms, or AF Stoger on them, which just means that they ordered them from Germany. Germany marked them for export, sent them to the retailer, and then the retailer added their particular logo. In this case, I believe Stoger added this sight device because I've never seen one from the factory like this. So the front sight, you can see the front sight is altered. It's up a little bit higher. Here's a .22 with a standard sight, front sight, and this one has been altered, replaced. And then right here, it's been drilled, and this device was added. Now, what's cool about this device, other than what the heck is it, this is probably ivory, so you have a nice line of sight right here. You can adjust right or left using this screw. You can also adjust up and down, so you can raise the elevation here. So you have different ways of adjusting the sights, and probably sold to a target shooter or competitor shooter. This is a very, very special and rare gun. Just having the Stoger retailer on here increases the value. Well, it probably doubles the value. I've sold these before, and they go for double the value of a standard commercial gun. One other thing I want to show you, just because you guys always asked how was that hooked up. If I take this slide off really quickly, you can see in here, right in there, that it was drilled in and attached there. The entire rest of the device is free floating. So that means I can lift this and it's not touching the slide back here. But this is on very tight, so it's not drilled anywhere other than right here, and you can see it right there. Now that's blued over, so that gives me pause, because that might imply that it was done at the Walther factory. But I still believe this was done by Stoger. Maybe they ordered it and was done by Walther. The other place that would have to be drilled is right here, and you won't be able to see it, but if I shine a light, I don't know if you can see it, but if I shine a light in the muzzle, that's also drilled in there, and it looks blued over. So as I'm talking, I'm wondering out loud, I wonder if this was done in the factory. As a factory variation, it's extremely rare. Never seen another one. But we will be offering this for sale shortly. Okay, another gun that came in that I wanted to show you, and here's why I wanted to show this to you. Every time I do a video, there's a guy out there that says, why don't you do more Smith & Wesson? Why don't you? The reason is I can't pronounce it. Why don't you do more Smith & Wessons? And so here you are. Here's a model 1917 military, U.S. military Smith & Wesson revolver. I'm going to show you this up close and personal, but before I do, I also want to mention that I'm popping out a couple of real quick videos, including one tomorrow on another Smith & Wesson, extremely rare. I have a Smith & Wesson Russian, and I'm going to talk about that, extremely rare. And then I have a Smith & Wesson Schofield, so that'll be the next video, so just stay tuned for that. Well, I hate to use the word mundane because there are no mundane guns, but this is not extremely rare or well, it's easy to find at gun shows and should be in everybody's collection. Both Colt and Smith & Wesson made military pistols just before we got into World War I. Smith & Wesson, actually Colt made these Model 1917s. There's the Model 1917, U.S. Army. Colt was making these. And also, Smith & Wesson was licensed to do the same. Serial number is under there. There's always that lanyard. They always have the wooden grips. These are the original grips. The original finish was this lustered blue. And right here, you see the proof mark. That's the Springfield proof mark, meaning acceptance into the military. And this was typically case hardened, which upon light or wear, the case hardening goes away. You can still see a little bit of case hardening here and not so much here due to handling. Comes in .45 caliber. The action is very smooth. On this one, the bore is very nice. But here's what I wanted to point out about this gun. Oh, one other thing. On the bottom, it'll say United States property. So you know that also another reason we know it went to the military. Now, these, again, were used in World War I, but a lot of them were reworked for World War II. Those will often have a rework arsenal mark, but also they'll be Parkerized. So if you find this model 1917 Parkerized, it means probably made for World War I, reworked for World War II. Some of them went to the British, and I'm going to show you a Lend-Lease British gun. Because obviously England got into the war in '39, we did not until '41. And so some of them were sent over to England as a Lend-Lease gun. Here's what's interesting, mildly interesting. Notice how nice the bluing is, and yet we have pitting and wear down here, mostly on this side. So easy explanation. You put this in the holster, it gets wet, all the water runs down to the bottom of the holster. The sun comes out, the holster all dries, but down here remains moist or damp. And so this sat in a holster, probably not used that much. The bore is excellent, the finish is excellent, except for right down here where it sat in a moist holster, and that's where you get that wear pattern. So I find that interesting, and I hope it was worth watching, especially for that guy who says, how come you don't show me any Smith & Wessons? There you go, Model 1917 military revolver. Okay, equal time for the Colt collectors. I have two Colts in boxes, not the same as boxed Colts, but these are Colts in boxes because this box in particular is not factory. Let me show you both of them. This is an early Colt Model 1903. Come take a look. A custom-made box, or else it was actually could have been a game box, because here's what was in it. A game box, I mean like somebody a game of dice or Parcheesi or card game, and that came in here along with a spare and also an original box of ammo. Now I added the rubber band because if I take it off, these flaps all fold open and the ammo falls out, but there is corroded ammo inside. Well, let's get that's what the corroded ammo looks like. So I'm going to put that back in there. I don't know if it's exactly original, but it's old ammo. The gun is a model 1903, but it was made in 1913. Now, a couple things that I like about this is again, lustrous, the high luster, high polish blue. Even better, the nitre blue that you see on the safety lever or slide stop and the trigger. You actually see it right here just a little bit. And often the screw, yeah, there it is. The screw will be fire blued as well. Now the early logo is what I call the Colt on the surfboard. That's not the technical term, but that's the early logo. The later logos look like this. And again, they would have the Colt with a circle around it. This came a little bit later. It's just the plain Colt versus the Colt on the surfboard. But this is a early 1913. Now, we'll talk about wear patterns. This gun is absolutely beautiful. Notice the front strap, back strap, shiny, beautiful. I could probably shave looking in the luster of this gun, except right here. So Was this one in a holster? Like this got pitted and then some, unfortunately it got rusty, and so somebody took an abrasive sandpaper or something and scraped it all off. No, what happened here? It sat in this box. And same thing, if you're in a basement or a humid climate, moisture seeps into the wood. This is porous, and it sat in there too long and began to rust right here, which is why when I store them, I wrap them in I cover them with oil, wrap them in cellophane to hold the oil in, and then I would put it in the box for safekeeping. But this is a very cool early 1903 Colt, and now let's look at a later one. This one is also boxed, but this could be the original box because it looks old, and this is known as a craft box. There is a company that is remanufacturing these exact same boxes, but they don't come, of course, with this paper on it. So this could be the original box, but you can buy these boxes for $15, $20. It is pencil marked on the back with the serial number, which I have seen that before. This one is Parkerized, military Parkerized. You can see the cartouche right here, meaning it was inspected for the military. Very faint stallion, Colt stallion. And you can see this was hardly used, just very little wear on the high edges. No wear here, no wear here. And you can see the difference between the wooden and the Bakelite grips, and the difference in the finish. Very distinct. And this one, by the way, was made, according to the books, this was made in 1942. Now, the other thing about this does have the original magazine. I'll show you that. It's, again, hardly used at all. These come in .32 caliber. This is considered an officer's pistol. Remember, the higher the rank, the smaller the weapon. The officers, and they could of course get a 1911 .45 caliber, but they tended to prefer the smaller weapons. They didn't use them very much. This was hardly ever used. But in particular, this one went to the British. I'll shine a light on them. You can see the British proofs underneath the U.S. property. So it was made for the U.S. military, but due to the Lend-Lease program, it was sent to the British. You'll see the British proof up here and also on the injection port. It says .32 caliber, and those are all British proofs. So this was a Lend-Lease gun. I just did a video about Lend-Lease, and I compared it to what's going on today. We, of course, the United States was trying to stay neutral before we got into the war in 1941. Emotionally, we were very tied to the British and helping them, but we were trying to stay officially neutral. Very much what's going on today, sending weapons, but what the video I just did, if you watch it, I talked about the fact that a bridge too far for the Americans was sending them fighter planes and bombers. And so they found a workaround, and you can see here that they took fighters and bombers to the Canadian border. They pulled them across with trucks and horses, and then the British or Canadian pilots would fly them away. Back to England. So that was their way of staying neutral and not saying we didn't give them to them, they came over and took them. So it's a matter of semantics, but it's a very interesting part of history, and interesting how history repeats itself even today. One other thing, this came in the box, I mentioned that, and that is a Parkerized cleaning rod. Again, the other ones, they would have a cleaning rod, but it would be blued. There's the original ad. And, for when it was sold. I think it's sold in auction. And then this is an original catalog. I'm trying to see if I see a date. I think I see a date of 9/44. So maybe this was put in the box later. Actually, Lend-Lease, the whole implication of Lend-Lease is we're not going to sell you weapons, but we will lend you these weapons. And after the war, most of these came back to the United States. My guess is this was sent to England, never issued. At the end of the war, it was surplus, came back to the United States, was put in this box, and then the manual added later. Two interesting guns with a lot of history behind them. Okay, time for the grand finale. I've got 3 Navy Mausers. Now, I just did a video about Navy guns, and on there, I think I had probably 4 Navy Mauser, including rigs. And they all sold right away. These often sell right away because they're highly desirable. The smaller caliber pistol, 32 caliber, 7.65, they tend to go very quickly. Well, the 9mm Lugers go quickly as well. But the reason people like these is the smaller guns, again, probably went to officers, so officers in the German Navy. And for sure, some of them went to submarines. So that makes these highly desirable. Now, these went to the Navy, and they show some corrosion. But I wanted to show you these because they're very, very rare with matching magazines, and they're becoming even rarer, meaning when I go to gun shows, I almost never find these. And lo and behold, I just sold the ones last week, and I got 3 more this week. Come take a look. Okay, these are both 1934 Mausers. You can see they both have corrosion. You can see this one has corrosion. This one is a little bit earlier, but they both have the stick wing. Remember, I talked about the fact that some have a closed wing. Here's a picture of the closed wing Nazi Navy. M stands for Marine, and Marine in German is Navy. So you see the stick wing with the M, stick wing with the M. So this was the earlier variation, and then later they went to the closed wing. Now, what makes these even rare? That's rare enough. Let's take a look at the other side. And again, you see some pitting, a little bit of corrosion. The wood grips are about the same condition. But if you look on the front strap, you see the Navy property mark, which is Nordsee, or the North Sea, I believe that's Kiel. The Kiel Navy base and the property number. So you can see the property mark, which actually shine a light on it. It's 2284. And if I take a look at the bottom, you see the same N property mark, 2284. So hard to find all matching. Now, bear in mind, many of the Navy mark guns don't have a property mark in the front. So they don't all have that. And of course, if they don't have the property mark, they also don't have a numbered magazine. Let's take a look at this one. Again, N property mark, and this one is 6121. If we look at the bottom, we see N6121. So I'll pull the magazine out so you get a feel for the size of the magazine. Again, 32 caliber, 7.65. Now I have one more, which is a Mauser HSC. So this is how I got the Mauser HSC. This is a Navy style holster. I can just tell from the style of it that many of these, but not all, went to the Navy. And they also are very common with the HSC. But what you'll notice, and what I don't know that I've ever seen before, is this is in pigskin. You can see what I'll call little pimples everywhere, but that's the back of the pigskin, and that's actually where the pig hair was rooted. So the pigskin has the dots all over it, and the entire, even the strap, sometimes you'll see parts of it are pigskin and the rest are not. Also, what I've noticed is this was made tan and then later dyed black. Not sure why, but for some uniforms, people preferred the black. For the SS, it was mandated. I don't think it was mandated for the Navy, but you can see there that it was definitely tan and then dyed black. This was not done by a collector. This was done by the Germans at that time. I'm sure of that. Yeah, you can see the pigskin in there, but it was dyed all the way through. So this was dyed by a German officer who probably received the pistol. Brass means fairly early. So here's what I wanted to show you in particular, because when I bought it, there was no mention of the fact that this is Navy marked. And if you look it over, you actually don't see a Navy mark. So that's why it was not disclosed. Well, I won the lottery because when I looked very closely, right there, you can't see it, but this would be this. It would be the eagle up above, followed by this swastika in a circle, and then M. What you can see the most is the Nazi swastika and then the M underneath. So this is Navy marked. And now let's take a look at the gun itself. This is a Mauser HSC. It's a Variation 3 Navy. Now let me describe what a Variation 3 it looks like. First, the Variation 1 is Navy marked right here. This one, we'll talk about the closed wing. There's the closed wing eagle over a swastika over M, and it's on the front strap just as it would be. These were never marked with the N or O property mark. They were only marked with the Nazi Navy symbol. So the first variation was a low grip screw. So the screw is down here. They only made these few hundred of them in the very beginning of production because the low grip screw, the grip would crack and it was poor design. So they quickly went to the grip screw in the middle. So the first variation is Navy marked low grip screw. Second variation is Navy marked and standard grip screw. And the third variation, there's actually an additional Navy mark right here. Now here's a photograph of one, but it's very tiny. It is an eagle and an M followed by, I believe, 113. But again, hard to see, but that's what it looks like. And then the fourth variation, they didn't bother with this, probably too time consuming. Fourth variation is just that marking only, and that's because they could just stamp it. That was a die and a hammer. They could quickly stamp it as opposed to sending it to the arsenal and having it engraved. So this is third variation, double Navy stamped here and here in a Navy holster, a rare find and extremely valuable to the discerning collector. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed those odds and ends. Certainly a lot to show. I've got a lot more to show you, a couple more videos that I want to do before Kurt and I head to Tulsa. So thanks for watching and stay tuned because I'm sure I'm going to bring back some stuff that I want to show you.